What's going on, congregation? It's Willie B, and welcome to this week's quick dive into Black history. Today we're going to talk about the origins of the Black Lives Matter movement. On February 26, 2012, Trayvon Martin, an unarmed Black American teen, was walking home from a convenience store in Sanford, Florida, when he was fatally shot by George Zimmerman. After police decided not to arrest Zimmerman, the case sparked international protests and debates about racial profiling, racial violence, and self-defense laws. Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Ayo Tometi created a racial justice organization building on what had become the popular social media hashtag Black Lives Matter in response to the acquittal of George Zimmerman. Their work, alongside the work of Black activists across the country, helped spur a social movement that spread across the world. On August 9th, 2014, 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed by Officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri. Some claim that Wilson used unnecessary force on Brown, and others defended Wilson as just, quote, doing his job. Y'all, Brown's body was left in the street for more than 4 hours. Demonstrators resumed in November 2014 when a grand jury decided not to indict Officer Wilson in the shooting, and then again in 2015 when the United States Department of Justice announced they would not charge Wilson for violating federal civil rights law. Protests spread across the world in the wake of Wilson's hearing. Activists organized a national action which became known as the Black Lives Matter Ride. It supported local protesters and helped build coalitions that would continue racial justice work in their hometowns. In 2014, several bystanders captured footage of Officer Daniel Pantaleo murdering 43-year-old Eric Garner by choking him to death. Despite Garner's repeated pleas of, "I can't breathe," Pantaleo used an illegal chokehold to detain him while other officers watched or held Eric Garner down. This led to another round of protests. Names like Tamir Rice, Tanisha Anderson, Maya Hall, Walter Scott, Renisha McBride, Alton Sterling, and Sandra Bland became linked to the Black Lives Matter movement and cries for justice. This violence ain't new, y'all. But tech has amplified the violence Black people had witnessed, police brutality, and violence in their communities for generations. Between January 2015 and April 2022, 1,593 Black Americans were shot and killed by on-duty police officers. This report also showed that the police and court system in Ferguson often worked together to use traffic arrests and subsequent imprisonment of African Americans to raise revenue for their city. Police officers were incentivized to pull over Black folks as one of the ways the city could make money. Today, a coalition of more than 50 organizations make up what is known as the Movement for Black Lives. In explaining how they came to be, the organization says it was created as a space for Black organizations across the country to debate and discuss the current political conditions, develop shared assessments of what political interventions were necessary in order to achieve key policy, cultural and political wins, convene organizational leadership in order to debate and co-create a shared movement-wide strategy. There is no doubt that over the course of the past decade, the Black Lives Matter movement has contributed to a shift in public consciousness around issues of race. People now understand that racism is not just an interpersonal phenomenon, but recognize racism as something that is embedded within structures and systems and institutions. There's still a long way to go, y'all. Because of the Black Lives movement, I think that a more nuanced and sophisticated and historically accurate conversation about race is possible in ways that weren't prior to the evolution of the movement. Another thing we want to be clear on is that the movement for Black Lives is not just about what organization you are or are not formally affiliated with. People in communities across the country have been fighting for justice in their hometowns for generations. The work of building a better world is not just done by only one person or organization, but by the actions of millions and millions of people doing their part. This and other quick dive episodes are an entry point into learning about Black American history. There are many books, films, scholars, and documentaries that can give you even more insight into Black American history. So don't let it stop here, y'all. I hope you take the time to check them out. Thanks for tapping in.